why is the human there? I think the human is actually a liability. Well, maybe the human is just there to kill the moose. I don't know.
Welcome to Wild True, the podcast of your wildest memes.
We're your one-stop internet culture shop, here to dissect what's going viral, why we care, and how this might affect our real human lives. I'm, dog race enthusiast, Isabel. This will make sense later.
And I'm Amanda, and I smell like ozone. Anyone can be famous on the internet, so why not us?
We're
gonna get there, don't worry. We're gonna get there. We have a lot to talk about today.
I like that we're doing, like, foreshadowing now.
Well, we talked to some podcast consultants, and we heard that foreshadowing is the new hit trick to get people hooked.
Right, because a podcast works exactly like a work of fiction, and, foreshadowing. Don't worry about it. You know, this doesn't work because neither of the things we refer to are the next thing we're going to talk about.
Well, I mean, we can foreshadow by saying, okay, we got TikTok ban, we got dog racing, we got perfume, and we got Kate Middleton.
You know, we weren't even planning on talking about Kate Middleton, but it's so timely that we simply must. Which I feel like is how everything with the royal family goes, where it's just people are living their lives and then suddenly something happens and it's like, wow, look at these rich people go. Or where are these rich people?
Everything I know about the royal family, I know against my will.
I'm so sorry I'm making you talk about this on the podcast.
I watched Suits before Meghan Markle was cool.
All right, so what's going on with the TikTok ban?
The things are escalating.
Explain to me the things.
There's more situation per situation. So the possible TikTok ban has been a boy who cried wolf situation for the last 4 years, and it's just been getting kicked around Congress. Something will get a little momentum, it'll die out, people forget about it. Something else happens that makes people angry and they forget that they're angry at TikTok. You know how the government works. So the news that is this week is that a bill that could ban TikTok passed out of its House of Representatives community. I hope they've...
The House of Representatives community. I would argue they're part of a community.
The House of Representatives committee unanimously voted to pass this, so that means, like, now that it's out of committee, it goes to the rest of the House, and then they vote on it, and then the Senate votes on it, and then Biden goes, yuppie, which he already said he would go, yuppie. The bill basically says that it would be illegal for app stores to distribute a, quote, foreign adversary-controlled application, and names TikTok explicitly as one of those apps. And to be clear, TikTok is based in Los Angeles and Singapore. It is an American-owned company. ByteDance owns TikTok, and ByteDance is a Chinese company.
Right, so they're talking about divestment, essentially. They basically are like, hey, ByteDance, you can't own this shit. Stop that.
They basically are trying to get ByteDance to sell TikTok to an American company, but, like, will that happen? I don't know. Or if ByteDance doesn't want to sell TikTok, then TikTok just can't operate in the US anymore, which there is a precedent for this. Like, you can't use TikTok in India. Like, there have been countries where they just flat out ban TikTok. And not countries that are, like, known for flat out banning resources for speech.
You know, it is actually kind of weird that America is, like, cool with TikTok existing, considering the relationship between the United States and China, and the technological the relationship between, like, the tech industries there. Although I guess we are very much a country that's like, yeah, I guess you could say things on platforms. Sure, go ahead. That's not legal advice.
Something that you've said to me in talking about this is like, wow, really the only thing that the left and the right can agree on is that they don't like TikTok. And a good point on that is, this is where we do the history lesson, where we go all the way back to the beginning in 2020, which is when the TikTok hysteria started. And it started with K-pop stans. Kind of.
Like all good things, yes.
It's like, this is like speculation, but I'm just gonna say it because I think it's really funny. So the first time that the US government considered banning TikTok was in summer 2020. This was a dark time when Trump was president. Wow, if True did not exist.
Very dark, yes.
The darkest timeline. So a bunch of K-pop stans on TikTok decided it would be really funny if they reserved all of the free tickets for a Tulsa rally for Trump. And that way, like, there wouldn't be any free tickets left for just, like, people that actually wanted to go to the rally to go. This is one of those internet things where I think that we keep talking about it because we want it to be true. It is true, but it's not like Trump walked out and there was an empty arena. Like, it was, like, a little less full than maybe it should have been. And either way, still hilarious, great example of fandoms getting shit done. A week after that rally, Trump signed an executive order banning American companies from doing business with ByteDance, and he also signed a separate order, like, similar toward WeChat, which is owned by Tencent and is, like, super... WeChat is, like, everything in China. It is simply every app.
You know, I feel like it'd be interesting at some point for us to talk about the differences between apps in the West and apps in, like, not the West, I guess the East. I don't want to say the East because it's like, and what I'm talking about is how they're in, like, China and stuff. You have a lot of apps that are like, or in Korea, you have apps that are like, it's every app. We got all the apps in one app. Whereas in the United States, we're like, no. You get 8 apps. Like,
yeah,
I'm not
you get
joking
more
about
app
this.
per app over there. No, but I mean, well, not to put you on the spot, but as someone who has spent, like, half of your life in Korea, what are the apps like?
Well, you see, I was living in a time before apps.
Yeah, you were like
I
a
was
child
there
for a
before
lot
the
of
apps
that.
were there, and then I left, and then I came to the States, and then they started making apps. No, but in Korea it is a lot more like everything. I think is through. I want to say it's all through Naver mostly, and then like KakaoTalk has a bunch of stuff, and KakaoTalk is like the big chat service. What I'm just saying here is that like there is a difference in cultures between we got one app and we got 10 apps, and I'm not saying one's better than or worse. I'm just saying it's kind of interesting.
I think it's probably because America is so, like, built on the simultaneous capitalism and also, like, sometimes being anti-monopoly. Like, the current administration is extremely anti-monopoly, but even if you're, like, a more lax administration in that regard, you still want capitalism to be capitalisming. And I think, like, they want there to be competition. Like, they want you to be posting the same photo on Instagram and also Snapchat. Like, and then I think that makes us feel insane because we have simply so many apps.
So what we're saying is that the free market was a mistake.
Yes, but also, I mean, I might be wrong. Like, I feel like in China, the control of WeChat is probably somewhat intentional, but in Korea, do you think it's, like, is it more consolidated for any specific reason, or are Koreans just smarter than us, and they're like, we don't want 70 apps?
I actually have no idea, because I'm not really on any of the Korean apps because I'm too busy being on the 15 American apps that I'm already on. No, but actually in Korea, they use a lot of the same apps that we do, but there is, like, a Korean ecosystem. I think also just what it is that Korea is a smaller country. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's the size of New Jersey.
Damn. I feel like everything's the size of New Jersey.
You know, that's
like-
actually what the maps aren't telling you, is that actually every single country on Earth is the size of New Jersey. They have just been lying to you.
I don't know if it's just the bias of, like, where we live geographically, but I feel like people are always like, this place is the size of Jersey. And I'm like, yeah, everything's New Jersey all the way down.
We do live in the two states, like, the two cities that, like, border New Jersey.
I do live so close to New Jersey.
You could go to New Jersey tomorrow. You know.
I could go to New Jersey today, but I'm already in my pajamas and it's 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, I do not see a future where you go to New Jersey today.
Okay.
What were we talking about? Sorry, I got us so off topic.
We're talking about how after Trump's rally was somewhat less substantial due to K-pop stans on TikTok. He was like, fuck TikTok. Which, okay, is this a one-to-one, like, cause and effect? K-pop stans, Trump wants to ban TikTok? I don't know, but it is a close enough connection that Forbes, NBC, and Mother Jones all wrote about it. So I'm not promoting misinformation. I'm just asking questions. I'm Joe Rogan. I just want to ask questions. Someone here just has to be asking questions.
Oh my god. Trump would have been huge on TikTok, and Trump would have also been incredible as a drag performer. And it's really sad that we don't live in the timelines where those happened. Anyway, go on.
I really wish we lived in that timeline. After that executive order, companies like Microsoft and Oracle expressed interest in buying TikTok, but once Biden took office, like a year later, I don't know, there was other shit going on. There was an insurrection. Wow If True became a podcast, and that really derailed the US government because they were like, oh no, Wow If True is on to our schemes about how we time political events to when Destil goes canon in foreign languages.
The relationship between Wow If True and the government is just like Destil and the government, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm half kidding.
I mean, the first episode of our podcast was supposed to come out on January 6th, 2021, but then we were like, not the time.
This is what I'm saying. I'm just saying. I'm connecting the dots. I'm just asking questions. We're Joe Rogan now. We're both Joe Rogan, and this is a horrible podcast.
I'm just asking questions. We're about to be the biggest podcast in America because we are Joe Rogan.
Okay, so what happens now that this question of, hey man, get rid of TikTok ByteDance is back on the agenda?
Now we went through another one of those cycles of there was talk about it last year, it kind of fizzled out, but then now it's back and it's being fast-tracked. So the fact that this bill got voted on like last week, the week of the single digits in March, I don't know what a week ago was, the single digit March week.
The single digit March week? What an insane way of phrasing that. I'm gonna start doing this all this. The double digit March weeks.
I feel like we're bringing a really specific energy because we usually record in the morning, but now we've both lived a full day.
I just feel like anytime we do Wow If True after dark, which is like, I guess anytime that we do it after like 5 p.m., the vibe in the room is just insane.
It's still light out. Thank you, daylight savings. Okay, so yeah, basically it's like same thing, back in action, but it's being fast-tracked and it seems like there's a lot of support. Biden said that he would support it, which is like a little scary. But the like core question here is, does the Chinese Communist Party have access to Americans' TikTok data? We do have evidence that ByteDance, the Chinese company that owns TikTok, has accessed American data. We do not have proof that the CCP has accessed data from ByteDance, which would also have accessed data from TikTok. The question then is, can the CCP inherently just get access to data from whatever Chinese company they want? And that's a very hard question. I talked to our friend who I asked to come on the podcast, and he was like, I don't know, man, that's a can of worms. But our friend who studies like Chinese foreign policy, and he did tell me that he wouldn't be surprised if the CCP can access ByteDance, but he has concern, but he wouldn't be surprised if the CCP can access ByteDance data, but he thinks that the concerns about the CCP trying to influence Americans is a bit blown out of proportion, which, like, I think is fair, because I think part of the fear from the legislators that are like, we gotta ban TikTok, it's half like, oh my god, all of the American youth is obsessed with TikTok, and they're gonna be indoctrinated into, like, pro-China, pro-communist.
Sorry, go on.
They're gonna be indoctrinated into communism, and then half of it is like, well, if a quote-unquote foreign adversary to the US like China has access to data about, like, the biometric facial data of Americans and like what people are looking at and how people think and where they're going and where they're using the app. Like, it's kind of a can of worms.
You know, I feel like this is interesting because it's very much like, I feel like Congress is getting very heated about this because it's a foreign, like, I don't want to call it xenophobia because it is very much like, no, like, there should be some amount of concern about China. Like, that's reasonable. I feel like that's reasonable. But then it's like, well, okay, there's two things here. First of all, American companies, they also love stealing data. They do.
Yes.
They will take your data. And and we're fine with that as long as it's domestic, and we probably shouldn't be okay with that. Second, do you remember when there was a bunch of Russian, not bots, but like moles on Tumblr trying to influence the election?
What?
No, it was like a thing. Like for after the election, I forget if this was I think this was 2020. And not 2016, it was 2020, I think. Where basically it was revealed afterwards that not a lot, but there were a certain amount of like shitposty blogs they turned out to be like like don't vote, it's not worth it propaganda.
Okay, I just looked it up and this is legit.
Yeah, this is real. Like, no, this is an insane thing for me to be making up or just going off of like misinformation. I don't remember if it was 2020 or 2016. If you are finding it,
it was 2016.
It was 2016, right? So
yes,
this was like a legitimate thing that happened on fucking Tumblr, of all fucking places. And the thing is that these agents were actually quite funny, and it was very unclear. And so this was very much we're gonna harness leftist infighting, and like the seemingly reasonable stance of both parties are the same, and also real change doesn't come from voting because of the way that the voting structure works, blah, blah, blah. Which, if couched in a certain way, sounds like a reasonable leftist take. However, that was the Russians. That was the Russians who were shitposting on Tumblr to influence the election.
So, when you mentioned that, I pulled up an article from Ars Technica that was like just about the situation, and they linked to the Internet Archive Wayback Machine page to one of these blogs, and the fourth post down is a gif of Ash Ketchum twerking.
See, that's what I'm saying, is that these were actually very effective agents. I guess what I'm saying here is that, like, don't need to own the whole platform. Don't need to own the whole platform for it to happen. But that being said, I understand Congress's fear, considering that it has happened before.
Oh no, they posted about Pokemon Go.
Yeah, it was 2016.
Sorry, I'm just...
Yeah, now you're looking at the fucking Russian agent don't vote in the election blog, and you think it's funny, right? Like, it's working.
Yeah. But they didn't say anything about the election so far, but I am gonna send you a picture that this blog posted.
Oh my god.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. That's a good post.
It's a raccoon with its paw on top of specifically $115. It is a $100 bill, a $5 bill, and a $10 bill, and on top of the money is a DiGiorno pepperoni pizza crust box. So it's the raccoon with its hand on the money, which is on the pizza box.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is that this is.
I don't know. I'm pro Russian disinformation now.
You
don't
can't
make
say
that the
that
poll
on
quote.
the podcast.
Don't make that the poll quote. No.
Oh Christ. So, like, I guess what I'm saying is that there's precedent here. I understand Congress's concerns.
Yeah. But I mean, to your point about how when you were like, yeah, well, in America, we'll just give your data to anybody. That is true, and that is something that, like, people have been pointing out, is that if China wants American data, they can buy it. Like, nothing's stopping them. They can just go to, like, databroker.org. I don't think that's a website. That's probably a website. But, like, data brokers are selling our data all the time, and they're not regulated, and it is, like, a really big problem for privacy at large. Another way in which this escalated that I think is notable is that on Friday, when the vote in the House committee, TikTok sent a push notification and an in-app full screen notice to a lot of users in the US being like, call Congress and say no to a TikTok ban, which I personally didn't get a notification, so I don't know if everybody got it, but TikTok said that they sent it to users that live in the US and are over 18 years old, so... that's pretty wild. But then, like, Politico reported that some congressional offices disconnected their phones because so many people were calling about TikTok. And it's kind of nuts.
Wait, I love that. That's the only thing the American people can get behind. Like, the only thing that Congress can, like, all unanimously agree on is we don't like TikTok. And the only thing that the American people will fucking pick up their phones and call about is we want TikTok. I hate this country.
Another new development is, so remember how Trump was like, I hate TikTok. Those teens, they trolled me. Fuck you. That's a direct quote, obviously. This is only facts on this podcast.
Of course,
so,
of course.
Trump now is against the TikTok ban.
Oh, I love it. He's reversed course.
I don't think he's against the TikTok ban so much as that he's not going to support anything that Biden supports. So I think Biden, what he should do, he should not do this. Biden should just be like, you know what I hate? Abortion. And then Trump will be like, abortion's for all.
You get an abortion and you get an abortion. If we were a much more serious podcast, I think we would be talking about the IVF thing, because I do think it's very funny.
Oh, I don't know what the IVF thing is.
You know all the bullshit, like, personhood, fetus laws that a lot of the red states were passing?
Yes.
Then a judge in Alabama was like, yo, those embryos you got on ice, that's a person. Oh. I mean, that's not actually what happened, but it's basically, is IVF covered as fucking with the fetus, is kind of the situation. I'm abstracting this so deeply, and then but then, here's the thing. The way that, like, I'm abstracting this, like, 15 levels out because I was not prepared to talk about this, but essentially what happened was basically, can we do in vitro fertilization if fetal personhood is a thing, or is this illegal? And also, that got everybody mad, the right and the left, and then it got all the, like, the right-wing boys who were saying shit, who were like, hell yeah, fetal personhood, to be like, oh, fuck, everybody hates us. Everybody on the right and the left hates these choices, and we did not think through what it meant if a fetus was a person, because the thing is that we were trying to be like, like the face of this is that, like, we're not killing babies.
We were trying to hate women. And
yeah,
then everyone hated us.
Right, no, I mean, the face of this is, like, we're trying to help babies be born. And IVF is a technology for babies getting born. But oh no, we've done a thing that makes it harder to get babies born, and now everybody hates this, is kind of... Anyway,
yeah.
Alabama Supreme Court did a ruling. Maybe we'll talk about this later.
You are a noted baby who was born in a lab, so, you know.
Yeah, I wasn't born in a lab. I was born in Morristown General Hospital. Just like most of my friends. Was I made in a lab? Yes.
It's a very normal thing. It's just funny to say. Okay, I do want to quote what Trump said on Truth Social about the TikTok ban.
Oh my god, please do. You have to do his voice.
I don't know if I can do his voice.
I just want to try it.
If you get rid of TikTok, Facebook and Zuckerschmuck will double their business. I don't want Facebook, who cheated in the last election, doing better. They're a true enemy of the people. I feel like that went into, like, Tucker Carlson.
No, it was a little Tucker Carlson. It's fine.
I feel like all of my old people accents end up being, like, old Jewish people, because I realized that having grown up in Boca Raton, I feel like most of the old people I've been exposed to in my life are old Jewish people. So I think all old people have Brooklyn accents.
You gotta get, like, more diversity of old person in your life. That's all I gotta say.
All of my old relatives are Jewish, and everyone in Boca is Jewish. Not everybody, but
okay,
you know.
Now that I'm thinking about it, most of the old people exposure I've had are, like, old Korean people or professors. The one thing I did want to say about what Amanda just said, what's missing from her extremely Tucker Carlson-esque Donald Trump speech, is the fact that Trump is also capitalizing not random, certain, like, nouns here. Like, Facebook, fine. Election. And then enemy, people. That's all. I just feel like it's
Trump,
in context.
Like, Trump is out here being like, haha, Joe Biden is so old. And, like, Trump is out here capitalizing random letters in the middle of a post.
It's like he's deeply doing, like, a boomer post.
He's such a boomer. And he literally is a boomer, I think.
He literally is a boomer. Like, that's not, like, even, like, a slander against him. He's a boomer. We have lost the plot. I don't know. Do you have a strong feeling about, like, whether TikTok should be banned or not? Or, like, whether TikTok is a social good or social evil? Was technology a mistake?
Yes, technology was a mistake.
Sure.
My feeling about TikTok is that I don't have enough knowledge about, like, the actual threat to society of the Chinese government and, like, what they could access via TikTok. But I do think that it's being blown out of proportion. I do think that TikTok, like any social media, even though it has a lot of horrors, I think it is a way that people communicate and disseminate information. And I think any sort of limiting of people's ability to talk to one another is concerning to me. I do think, like, I don't mind how in most states now TikTok is banned from government devices. So, like, if you are Joe Biden and you have a phone that is the Joe Biden I am the president iPhone. I don't know if he has does he have an iPhone? Like, you can't have TikTok on that phone. And I think in that case, it's like, okay, if there's even a remote chance that China is spying on Joe Biden, then, like, don't let him have TikTok on his phone. But, like, I do think it's probably being blown out of proportion. I think, why don't they regulate how data brokers profit off of our existence? Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a pretty thoughtful response. My thought is that I don't love precedent that's setting precedent that Congress can just say that foreign companies can't do XYZ.
Yeah.
But that's my first thought. The second thought is that, like, wouldn't it be just easier to just, like, pass a law? I guess, no, this wouldn't be easier. This would be simpler to, like you said, just pass a law about, hey, don't do stuff with the data. You can't collect this data. But that would get, I believe, the whole tech lobbying industry riled up.
Yeah. Speaking of lobbying, one more point I want to make is that TikTok has used creators to lobby. Like, last year when Shou Chew, the CEO of TikTok, testified for the first time in Congress, like, TikTok brought creators with them, and they, like, literally, it was like, they have a bunch of, like, people dressed in, like, big pink dresses being like, we're here. That wasn't all of them. There was, like, one person in a big pink dress. But I just think that's really interesting that TikTok has tapped into using both creators to lobby in person and then using its user base to call Congress this time around.
I don't know what to say about that because I watched too much TikTok and I'm picturing those people being in that room.
So something that's more fun than legal shit. Dogs? ?
Dogs. All right. Okay. So I'm using my law degree for great things this week. Great and important things.
Which Does is this to actually have a legal element?
No, but they do have a set of rules for this race that I did read.
Perfect. And I know nothing about this, so I'm excited.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we're coming back to the foreshadowing. Now we're talking about what I mentioned earlier. All right. Dog sled races. I'm going to pronounce this wrong because I've never heard it said out loud. The Iditarod? Iditarod? Iditarod. It's a sled dog race that takes place in Alaska. If you've ever read anything about Balto, you will know about this. Otherwise, there's no reason to know about this because it's not relevant to most people's lives.
I didn't know about Balto until the You're Wrong About episode, like, a week ago.
Well, I'm glad that you listened to that because now you know about Balto, so you have the context here. For everyone who does not have the context, first of all, the Iditarod or the Iditarod, or, you know, somebody's going to at me after this being like, this is how you pronounce it, Isabel, and I'm going to be like, thanks, I think.
And in response to that, I'm going to be like, thank you for listening to our podcast.
Yeah, thank you for listening to our podcast.
Thank you so much, genuine.
It's like, wow, you cared enough to correct us. It is a 1,000-mile race in Alaska where essentially it is a dog sled race where it's a team of dogs who are pulling a sled and there is one guy on the sled. It is dangerous as shit because it is essentially happening in freezing cold Alaska and it is through the wilderness. Now, what does it mean that it's through the wilderness? What it means is that sometimes you run into moose. This is less internet and more things that I'm glad the internet enables me to learn about in real time. Because there's a world where the internet doesn't exist, and I learn nothing about this sled dog race, and my life is not as enriched. However, maybe then... I don't know if it'd be better or worse for Dallas. Anyway, Dallas Seavey is the 5-time winner of the Iditarod, and what happened this year to him is he got attacked by a moose. Which is, moose...
That sucks.
Mooses are huge. Yeah. They're, like, kind of like the last of, like, the big megafauna, and if you've ever seen one, like, in a photograph with, like, banana for scale, then you'll realize, oh god, that's a big fucking boy. So, Seavey managed to kill the moose and got on with his life. By life, I mean race. And basically he took his handgun, he shot the moose dead. It also injured one of his dogs. Oh no. And as Seavey told a television crew, I gutted it the best I could, but it was ugly. So now, this is
That's
where it
so
gets
badass.
No, this is where it gets interesting. Or at least interesting for me. He has now been penalized for gutting the moose improperly on this race. This is the only race in the world where there is a section about how you are supposed to gut a moose if you happen to kill the moose on the race. And that's all I wanted to talk about today.
When I go to my next recreational adult co-ed softball game, I'm gonna be like, hey guys, what does the ASA rulebook say about mooses?
And wait,
moose.
There's more. Can you guess what rule this is? What rule number?
The spoiler is that because I clicked the article, I do know it is Rule 34, which I think is a great internet connection.
This is exactly the only reason how it's connected to the internet. It is Rule 34. Killing of game animals.
How would you describe Rule 34 for people who weren't on the internet in, like, 2005?
Well, I would say that simply go listen to the podcast episode where we talk about Rule 34, but the other thing I would it's if it exists, there is porn of it.
Did we do an episode on Rule 34?
I think we talked about it at one point. When we talked about 69, we talked a little bit about 34.
Oh, yeah, we did. Oh, God. We've done so many podcast episodes that, like, I tell the same stories and then I feel bad about it because being perceived is wild. Thank you for listening to the podcast.
It's okay. This is all fodder for the bingo card. Anyway, Rule 34. Killing of game animals. In the event that an edible big game animal, i.e. moose, caribou, buffalo, is killed in defense of life or property, the musher must gut the animal and report the incident to a race official at the next checkpoint. Following teams must help gut the animal when possible. No teams may pass until the animal has been gutted, and the musher killing the animal has proceeded. Any other animal killed in defense of life or property must be reported to a race official but need not be gutted. And I just think that's such an weird rule, but it's also kind of like he got dinged by 2 hours for you simply did not gut the moose enough.
I have several questions.
Yes, go on.
1, what exactly does it mean to gut a moose?
Basically you need to take out the intestines and other internal organs of a fish or other animal before cooking it, according to like the race people who later clarified. So basically you just kind of get rid of all of the stuff that would make the animal spoil if you kept it in with the edible meat.
Okay. I also want to just address that the rule says, quote, danger for life or property.
Yeah.
Which life or property is just doing a lot of work there.
Life or property is doing a lot of work there. Also apparently Apparently that is actually just copied from, like, Alaska's... It's kind of an extension of Alaska's state law in the sense that statute 16.30.010 titled Wanton Waste of Big Game Animals and Wild Fowl.
Alaska's the best state.
I'm just like, you know, the thing is, see, I told you I was using my legal degree for this. It is a Class A misdemeanor for a person who kills a big game animal or a species of wildfowl to fail intentionally, knowingly, recklessly, or with criminal negligence to salvage for human consumption the edible meat of the animal or fowl. So, like, so it's actually illegal in Alaska for you to, like, kill the moose and not, like, fix it. Other fun facts here. A full-grown moose can weigh up to 1,600 pounds.
Good for them.
A lot of moose. A lot of moose.
I would understand being afraid if you were being attacked by a 1,600-pound animal.
Yeah, like, I kind of get it. Like, I mean, I think he was right to kill the moose.
Yeah, I also see that you have something in our notes here that it says, quote, "Guy falls asleep. Apparently the falling asleep happens every year with 3 question marks."
Yes.
So one guy killed a moose, another guy fell asleep.
The moose thing led me down kind of a rabbit hole of, like, looking at tweets that people were live tweeting about the race, which is, like, I think it's a really interesting thing that you can have a remote sled dog race in Alaska and people will be live tweeting it and, like, know the people who are racing and, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird that there's, like, a fandom here.
Yeah, but
or, like,
I love
not
that
even a
there
fandom,
is.
but, like, you know.
How long is the race, by the way?
1,000 miles, so however fast you get there.
So they probably have to sleep at some point.
Right, they have to sleep at some point, but apparently Ryan Reddington this time fell asleep, fell off his sled, and then the next musher coming had to pick him up and chase down his team of dogs, which apparently happens at least once a year. And apparently, like, the dogs will just, like, I'm basing this purely on tweets that I've been reading, but, like, apparently the dogs will just know what they're doing. They're well-trained enough that they will just go to the next checkpoint just without their guy.
God, dogs are so smart, and after I learned about Balto, I cannot emphasize enough, 1 week ago, I need to know everything about, like, mushing dogs.
Yeah, they're smart as shit. Why is the human there? I think the human is actually a liability. Well, maybe the human is just there to kill the moose. I don't know. So that's what I've got for you on sled dog races in remote Alaska. Normal internet things. I feel like this is, like, the time I got very into the eel pit or the world cruise or the girl building the suburban mine. It's always something.
Do you think that this is comparable in some way to the great chess incident of, I guess, 2022, 2023? I don't know.
Was this the butt plug one?
Yeah, which there's no confirmation of the butt plugs. I do not spread butt plug misinformation on WoWIF 2.
I want to say that this actually is not comparable because it's not a did this guy cheat or not. It's a did this guy sufficiently gut the moose. And I think he came around to saying that the officials... No, he came around to eventually saying, no, the officials made the right call and giving me a 2-hour penalty. I did not gut the moose well enough. But I'm just kind of like, how are they checking? Do they just send a guy out there to look at the moose? Like, you know what I mean? There's like a... Like, what?
There's a lot of infrastructure here that's pretty impressive when you think about it.
Right, if you think about it, it's like... Okay, so, like, a guy kills a moose in remote Alaska on a race that is deliberately through the wilderness. The officials have to go look at this moose to see whether it has been properly gutted. So the officials both need to know what an improperly gutted moose looks like, and also get out to the remote bit of Alaska on this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. I also, honestly, I think it's kind of nice that when the other guy saw that the guy fell asleep, he was like, hold on, I gotta, like, stop and figure this out. Which, to be fair, if that guy had been asleep for too long in remote Alaska, like,
yeah, I feel like
you
would
could
he
die.
Would he fucking die? I'm pretty sure
Like,
he'd just fucking die. How does this happen every year? Anyway.
like, is there like a code of ethics for the mushers where
I
they're
think-
like, let's not let our people die even if it means that we get slowed down a little bit? They should get points for moral fiber.
You get morality points if you do a good person thing during the race. I like this. I think that's a good thing to add.
And then everyone tries really hard to be a good person to get like a leg up, that it ends up being just disruptive and everything falls apart.
This is just such a weird race because they also have like dog maximums and minimums. No, like I'm dead serious. Like your dog maximum is 14 dogs. Your dog minimum is 5 dogs. Whatever happens between the beginning and the end of the race is between you and God and the dogs, I guess. If the dog gets there without you, you don't win. No, literally, Rule 19 is driverless team.
What do they get for winning?
I don't know, fame, glory, some amount of money.
Pride.
It's written in the rulebook here what you get for winning. Oh, the purse for 2022 was $500K, so there is actual money involved, but I'm just kind of like, I was so caught up in reading things like mandatory items that I did not really pay attention to whether you would win or not.
That's so valid, and we're gonna pivot to something even more absurd than penalties for not gutting moose properly.
I like that. I feel like our theme today is the internet is weird. And
that's just the podcast.
That's just the podcast. Tell me about this next thing.
Do you know what Binance is?
Unfortunately.
It's the largest cryptocurrency exchange by volume in the world, and it has recently been involved in a couple different high-profile scandals. It was involved in the FTX scandal in the sense that, like, people started realizing that something was up with FTX because Binance was like, JK, we don't want to do business with you. Mm-hmm. And then more recently, and more to Binance's detriment, the US version of the company, which is like, it's the same company, like it whatever, they were fined $4 billion for money laundering, and that includes implications for the founder, who goes by CZ. Like, we know his name, it's just CZ is like what he goes by. It's not like a pseudonym. Meanwhile, there's a marketing team at Binance who they are thinking, International Women's Day is coming up. How will we reach the women? And what they come up with is crypto perfume.
You know what women like? Perfume. You know what women would love? Smelling like Bitcoin. God.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that when you hear crypto perfume, you're like, what does it smell like? Like sweaty boys? Does it smell like the inside of your computer overheating because you're using too much energy? Like, does it smell like fraud?
What does fraud smell like?
Sam Bankman-Fried's jail cell.
Delightful.
Basically, Binance is based in the Middle East, and they set up a booth at a mall in Bahrain, and they just had women handing out like perfume samples, as happens in malls also in the US. Bahrain, they're just like us. They have perfume samples at malls. And they were like, would you like to try crypto? And are like handing people the perfume sample.
I love the concept, sorry. I love the concept of like, you're walking around a mall, and then like one of those salespeople who are like at the perfume booth comes up to you and like hands you like one of those like little, is trying to hand you one of the like, either like the little slips of paper that have like the scent on them, or trying to spritz you, and it's like, would you like to try crypto? I would lose my mind. Like, what did it, like, I would be like, are we in the fucking Twilight Zone? Like, what sort of Futurama bullshit is this? Anyway.
Well, that actually happened, and do you want to know what crypto smells like?
I would love to know what crypto smells like.
This fragrance opens with refreshing notes of ozone, salt, and moss, evoking the essence of a crisp and invigorating breeze. The heart notes reveal a luxurious blend of oud, mandarin, and precious woods, while the base notes of amber, woody, and musk provide a warm, musky sweet, and earthy aroma exuding sophistication.
Musk. Um,
Yeah, I did notice that, and I was like,
okay, two things here. Why did they pick these scents? Like, why is moss here?
I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just like, in a second, hearing you read this off really makes me think, wow, we describe perfumes insanely. This is an insane way to describe a smell.
I don't know if this is an insane description. Like, I think this is more that descriptions of perfumes are insane.
No, that's what I
than
mean.
the
Like, why do we
marketing
call
team
things
on
amber?
this. Yeah, what does
Like,
amber
what are
smell
precious
like?
wood? What do precious wood smell like? Am I just
What is-
not
I
rich
had
enough
to-
to know?
I guess so. I found out what ozone is because of this, and apparently ozone is like a scent that happens after it rains.
Did you not know what ozone? Okay, I knew what ozone was.
I didn't.
Okay, well,
I've
we're all
learned.
learning new things
I'm
today.
always learning. I'm learning about Balto. I'm learning about ozone. You know, life is just a constant adventure in learning.
Um,
Having
You
fun
notice-
isn't hard if you've got a library card.
I'm just trying to imagine the scent in my mind. Sorry, we're gonna be here for a couple of minutes where I'm just kind of like, it sounds like it smells fine, but it doesn't sound like it would smell like crypto.
I wrote about this, which normally I wouldn't, because, like, why would I write about a marketing campaign? But it was so weird that I was like, we have a rule that if we are talking about something enough internally, then someone has to write about it. So I bit the bullet. It was my turn to apologize for my crimes, and I wrote about it. So I interviewed the chief marketing officer on this crypto perfume project. And so what really fucks me up here is that crypto perfume as a way to get women into crypto is an idea that was concocted by a team of women.
But why?
My earnest guess is that they maybe were trying to go for like a mischief type situation, or like they were trying to be like satirical, but it just
It misses
you
the mark.
can't like you can't just say that it was a satire because people didn't like it, and it kind of feels like they were trying to do something and it just didn't work. I don't know. I think that's too charitable of a read. I genuinely felt so bad about this because I was like, I literally, the night before the article was supposed to go up, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, do I hate women? But I actually think it's just that these women did a bad job, and sometimes women are bad at stuff.
I think it's actually very feminist to say that women can fuck up and be misogynistic too.
Thank you. Tell that to me when I wake up at like 3 a.m. and my eyes like burst open and I'm like, am I misogynistic?
Am I the problem? I think it's really
Am
funny
I?
that these are your 3 a.m. thoughts. You were living a very normal life.
Binance said that they were going to send me the crypto perfume, which normally I would not accept, but I was like, well, I have to make a TikTok about it. I don't know if they're still sending it, given that I didn't write a very positive article about them, but like, if I get the crypto perfume, the content, endless.
My God, the content.
I'm so
Immeasurable.
excited if I, like, imagine I have a perfume bottle that says crypto on it, like, God.
Okay, wait.
My
If
life.
you if you went over to somebody's place and you saw that they had crypto perfume or like I guess cologne, either like let's make this gender neutral. They have a crypto scent on their like nightstand. How does this change your opinion of them?
I would be like, hey, is that the Binance crypto perfume, and do you have it as a joke like I do? And if they were like, yeah, then I'd be like, it's a match made in heaven. I finally found love.
But what if it's unironic?
Then I would leave.
Okay, that's all I had on that.
Back to real life things that actually exist, unlike crypto.
Right, real life things that are true and definitely not photoshopped and are totally not pulled by every major news outlet. So Kate Middleton.
Yes, here's the overview. Kate Middleton was last seen in public on Christmas. She had, quote unquote, planned abdominal surgery in January. She got out of the hospital on like January 29th, has not made a public appearance since. I don't know, man. Like, she's allowed to take time off if she wants, but everybody's speculating that because this is not very common royal behavior, that, like, people think something's wrong. And there's a lot of speculation. People are like, maybe she got a Brazilian butt lift because the exact amount of time that she's been away, and then, like, the Buckingham Palace was like, she'll be back by Easter. Like, apparently that's the exact amount of time between mid-January and Easter to get a Brazilian butt lift. And people are like, hey, you know, I mean, she's gonna be queen one day. Like, she's gotta get that butt lift. Like, she's gotta get all that plastic surgery so that she's looking fly when she's, like, doing queen shit in 2080 or whatever.
Right, because it's really important that your ass looks good when you're doing queen shit. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. There was also theories that she, like, ran away and was in the Willy Wonka Glasgow thing, which I still don't even know what happened there. Like, I was off the internet for one day because I was at a conference, and then I come back and everyone's like, Willy Wonka milkshake duck, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? But people made that joke because these two things were kind of happening in parallel, where people were starting to make memes about where Kate Middleton went and, like, is she missing? And then also that whole thing happened, which we're not going to talk about it. But so this all came to a crescendo a few days ago yesterday actually, Sunday, when she released a photo of her and her 3 kids. It says, "Thank you for your kind wishes and continued support over the last 2 months. Wishing everyone a happy Mother's Day," because it was British Mother's Day. The picture, something just feels off about it. Like, so maybe it's that it's like Kate Middleton and then 3 children who all look the same, just staring into your soul. And, like, because they're kids, their teeth are all weird because kids, like, lose their teeth and shit. So their teeth are all just kind of weird. And then there's so many hands in the photo.
The hands look wrong. The hands look,
yeah.
I'm not gonna say it looks like AI, but.
Yeah, it just, like, something just looks off. And the hands aren't weird in, like, a Kate Middleton has 7 fingers way, or like there's 4 people, but there's only 7, or there's like 9 hands way. Like, there are 4 people, there are 8 hands, assuming that each person has 2 hands, we're in the clear. But, like, so Kate Middleton is not wearing a wedding ring. Also, it looks like just the same child will have one hand that looks like it's a different skin tone than the other.
Looking at this, I think one of the things that looks very off here is the lighting is super weird. The angles from which light is bouncing off of people's skin is not consistent, or their hair, their clothing, it's not consistent. And that just happens sometimes depending on just where they're outside. This could be reasonable. But it does lead to an effect of everything looking wrong.
Yeah.
And they also look way too crisp against the background. Again, this could just be like the editing. However, you know?
Yeah, there's also, I think, the most, like, damning part is if you zoom in to, I had to learn the names of the children. Charlotte, if you zoom in, like, next to her hand, it looks like there was another arm there that got edited out badly. Like, there's, like, another sleeve, kind of. Like, it looks like, to me, like someone was editing with the content-aware fill on Photoshop and just, like, messed up. So, basically, Kate Middleton is presumably recovering from this surgery. People are spreading rumors that she's getting a Brazilian butt lift. And then her team is like, Kate, you have to do a Mother's Day post so that people know you're alive. And she's like, bet. And then she posts this picture. And then everyone is like, Kate Middleton is being held hostage. They don't know where she is. This is an AI edited photo that they made because Kate is not actually in the building. What happened to Kate? And so that's the discourse that erupts. And then fast forward to Monday, the day after the photo was posted, Then Kate Middleton posts a statement that says, "Like many amateur photographers, I do occasionally experiment with editing. I wanted to express my apologies for any confusion the family photograph we shared yesterday caused."
I'm just like, that's such fodder for, like, people to just speculate. Regardless of what's actually going on, they've been handling it like idiots.
And then Piers Morgan, who is a British presenter, I think, made a post that was like, "So why don't they just release the original photo and then everyone will stop speculating about whether this was, like, massively photoshopped and everything is fake?" There's a big difference between they faked a family photo and Kate Middleton went on Photoshop and, like, made a little mishap and it looked a little weird. Which,
I think it's...
also, another one of my favorite responses to this was from the journalist Paris Martineau, who wrote, "Are we seriously supposed to believe that Kate Middleton has Adobe Creative Cloud subscription?" So this got so out of hand that the Associated Press, they pushed a kill order, which I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently that's what you do when all of the outlets that, like, use photos via the Associated Press, which is, like, a very normal thing. Like, you like license images from other places, it's fine. They pushed a kill order, which meant that every outlet who used their stuff had to take that photo down because they decided that they couldn't verify that it was legit.
To go full conspiracy theorist, do you think, like, she's good? What do you think is actually going on?
I mean, I think the reason why people are speculating so much is that now that Meghan Markle is kind of distanced from the royal family, and she and Harry have been going on a whole media tour for years about how they were mistreated by the family, and how, like, when Meghan Markle was having a mental health crisis, they wouldn't let her seek treatment because they were worried about it leaking to the press or whatever, and, like... So I think that's why people think that there is something nefarious happening. I think also it's just kind of... people love to weigh in on extremely low-stakes drama of LOL Kate Middleton edited photo badly or conspiracy ?
Right. Yeah, I do think it's kind of an interesting situation because it's very much like... I feel like the royal family's party line is very much like, we don't talk about what's going on. And faced against the internet, this no longer works. This is no longer an effective strategy.
I think public perception towards the royals has shifted as Meghan Markle has spoken out more about her experiences. Again, as I said, everything I know about the royal family I know against my will, and somehow now I know a decent amount about it.
And
not really.
I feel like the royal family is like how the way that England colonizes so much of the world, the same way the royal family colonizes the minds of the people.
When I was writing about this, I kept having to be like, do you capitalize, like, capital R, capital F, royal family? Can you refer to like, do people know what Kensington Palace is? Because I didn't know what Kensington Palace is. Apparently that's, like, where Kate and William live. Yeah, it's a whole other world. I love when Americans just don't know shit about other countries because
and that's
American
our fucking right as an American. Sorry. Sometimes,
yeah.
you know...
I haven't decided if this is, like, a good thing or not, but I feel like as AI has gotten more mainstream and AI image generators have gotten better at making convincing images, like, as a journalist, I've been like, everybody needs to brush up on their media literacy and understand how to, like, question where things are coming from and blah, blah, blah. But then you have something like this happen where people were so ready to accept that it was edited because it's not, I wouldn't say it's obvious. I would say it's like you can scroll past it and be like, whatever. But if you look at it for too long, you're like, is this weird because there's 3 children staring at me that all look the same? Or is it weird because there's something weird?
Could be both.
But
could be both.
Like, are we now entering a space where perhaps we're so on edge about whether or not something is AI that we're just like, everything's AI?
I mean, but, like, honestly, I think that's an interesting, like, byproduct of the AI situation where like you can never trust an image that you see. Like it's an evolution of the question regarding image editing software, right? But it's taken to such a degree where it's like the assumption that something is fake until you verify it. And but like fake being that like it doesn't fit the narrative that's in your head. And if the narrative in your head is that like, yo, Kate Middleton is being held hostage by the royal family, you are going to find whatever evidence you can that supports that assumption. Like, that being said, this photo looks edited to shit, or AI'd to shit. Like, it's very obvious. But I don't know, like, I think we've entered an interesting post-truth society. That sounds dramatic, but do you know what I mean?
Post-truth. It messes with your brain to think about how do you know what's actually real, and I think I run into this as a journalist where if I'm just tweeting something, I'm maybe gonna like check to make sure it's legit, but I'm not gonna like legitimately go through a fact-checking process. But I'm so afraid of publishing false information because that's like my credibility and career on the line, that you can go down rabbit holes that are like, you get to the point where you're like, what is a fact?
Damn. What is a fact?
Like, I remember when the news broke that Elon Musk officially bought Twitter, we were really hesitant to push the article out because we were like, well, what if this is wrong? And then I came across the article I wrote recently for other reasons, and I was like, according to reports from the New York Times, the Washington Post, NBC, CNBC, the Associated Press,
listing every
Reuters. I was like, let me cite literally every place that has said this is real before I say, yes, this is real.
I mean, I get that, though. Like, what else are you supposed to do when it's, like, absurd information like that? Especially, like, you know, it's I think the internet was a mistake. It's fine. This is fine.
Or this also comes up in the questions of, let's say that you're writing a story that's, like, insider sources at Instagram say that Adam Mosseri, the head of Instagram, is working on Instagram 2, the better Instagram. So if you interview one person and they tell you that, you can't go and report it because how easy would it be for people to just tell journalists dumb shit? And people do that. Like, there are people that will, like, I mean, like Raoul Ligma.
Raoul Ligma. Honestly, love that.
A Wikipedia page that I am cited on. But like stuff like that is when journalists are so eager for a story that they're like, oh my god, we interviewed these people that just got fired from Twitter, but then it's a guy who's trying to make a Ligma joke. But so if you have one person tell you something, then you're like, okay, I'll ask another person. And then you have another person tell you that, but then what if those two people are in cahoots? So you want to get an unrelated person who also has the same information, and it's a really weird mindfuck because you're looking for information to confirm your hypothesis, but if you aren't cognizant of that, then you could end up posting, like, unsubstantiated information, which that's kind of the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing.
I feel like this was a really depressing way to end our... I feel like we could tie this back to TikTok and the way that misinformation gets spread on there. But then I feel like that's a very depressing end for us.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of, like, what's a good thing on the internet? There's been a controversy in baseball land because they're using a different company to make the uniforms this year, and they're kind of see-through, and players are complaining about it, and I think that's funny.
That's pretty good.
On that note...
Wait, but how do you know that they're not just photoshopping the see-through? Anyway.
I trust Nick Castellanos with my whole heart.
Okay. On that note, if you liked this episode, tell a friend. Word of mouth is how we grow. Thank you to all of our patrons, and shout out specifically to Zoe, Bray, Andromeda, Thea, Brian, Gabriel, Lada, Matt, Max, my sugar daddy Sam, Jock, and Aaron's husband. If you want your name of the above or on our Twitter header, slide right into our Patreon at patreon.com/wowoftrue. Shout out to audio editors Allison Mills and David Newtown, graphic designer and Canva Warlock Eric Silver, who made our logo, Sam Reiser, who made our podcast music, and Tessa Farah, who is transcribing our episodes. You can find us on Twitter as @WowofTruePod and Instagram and Facebook as @WowofTrue. Had your 15 seconds of internet fame? Slide right into our Twitter DMs and tell us about it. And until next time, let's get weird on the internet.